The free Photoshop course that you're about to watch is just a small part of our Adobe Graphics full course bundle. So if you also want to master Adobe Illustrator with my teaching style and also be able to acquire your certificate of completion, you can tap the first link in the description right now and get your access with a fraction of cost. Also mentionable that this course is brought up to you by the Takeoff College, the smartest alternative currently available to the traditional education. With all that being said, I'm very excited to get started, so let's go. The next creative tool that I want to talk about, unlike the shape tool, will not add its own layer itself. And the tool, you have probably guessed right, is the brush tool. So with brush, we can draw and do same stuff. But now if I choose a layer over here, as you see, it will not allow me to draw because it says this is a shape layer. And this is showing us that brush does not create its own layers. We need to do that for it. So how we do that is by coming to our layers panel, clicking on this little button thing over here. And now, as you see, I am free to draw. So the brush has two things inside it. If I choose brush and right click anywhere on the page, I will have access to these two settings. So the first one is the size of my brush. And the second one is the hardness to my brush. So hardness 100 is something, I'm clicking and dragging, as you see. This is somehow what hardness 100 looks like. So if I say hardness 0%, this is what I will have. So this is what brush is all about. If I right click, as you see, I'm having access to even more options over here, so I can set different styles to my brush. So this is, for example, a brush itself, it may be used in some places. And there's plenty of them. Actually, there's thousands and millions of them on the internet, all these Photoshop brushes. And they are all importable inside Photoshop. And this is basically how they work, as you are seeing. So let me remove this layer and create a new one again. So back to the default brush we had. Why isn't it working? Okay, so as we have a size and we have hardness, and anytime you right click, you can change this size in order to suit, for it to suit your work the best. And the color that this brush is using to draw is this default color that we have over here. So you can double click and change it anytime. And as you see, this is how my brush is working. So we have another tool that may probably be an undo to our brush, but this is not just that. There's more to the game. And that tool I'm talking about is the eraser. We just used it, If I click on it and right click on the page, you see that as well, over here as well, we have again a size and a hardness to our brush. And this eraser, if I click and drag over here, as you see, will remove what I have drawn over here. So if I try to remove parts of this elephant first, if I click, it says this is a shape layer. But if I click OK, as you see, I will even be able to remove parts from this elephant. There's no limits. I can be over here on this ellipse tool, again click OK, and remove parts from it. So this is how eraser basically works. Now, a very important point to mention here is that for both brush and eraser, there's a concept we have, which is opacity. So if I change this opacity to 50%, for example, and I click and draw, as you see, this is what I will get. So it will basically decrease the opacity to my drawing. I can also set an opacity to my removing. So if I set it to 50% again, if I click and draw, as you see, it will only remove 50% of the part I click and drag. And this can be an effect itself, something like that, you know. So back to layer 1, you see, this is what opacity looks like inside brush and eraser. And another point when it comes to using brush or using eraser is that, as I said, you can right click, you can always right click, and over here you can set the size. But there's another easier way, and that is pressing Alt, right clicking and dragging. So I'm pressing and holding Alt, I'm right clicking and dragging to right to make it bigger, or to left to make my brush smaller. So this is again a very good strategy when it comes to changing the size to your brushes in order to reach the goals that you have over here. Now, a very cool possibility that we have over here, and I wanted to mention, is combining those selection tools, for example, that we had learned with these brush and eraser things that we have over here. So I created a new layer and I make a selection, as you see. And now if I choose my brush and set a color to it, for example, I want it to be green. And now if I click and drag, as you see, I won't be able to make any drawing. Why? Because my drawing has to be inside the selection. So if I click and drag over here, as you see, I'm only able to draw inside the selection that I have made. This is also a very cool relationship that these two have. And if I press Ctrl D to deselect, as you see, this is what I can have over here. And this is applicable as well to the eraser. So I choose a part of it, and if I try to remove this part, for example, as you see, I am disabled of doing that. But if I try to remove this part, which is included in the selection, I can do that very easily, you see. So this is again a very cool notable relationship that these brushes and eraser has with these selection tools that you have learned. So I press Ctrl D again in order to deselect my selection.